All right. Well, um, I was, Jill told me earlier in the week, she said, this is year two. We had a talk. And so I was thinking, so I spent the week just meditating on the, uh, the last year, not just with the group here and the community that's formed around this particular practice, but just what's been happening in the world in America. And a poem, sort of a kind of long prose poem, long for me. Uh, Prose poem sort of made it onto the page, so I'm going to read that to you, and then we'll jump off from there. Where we always go from the teaching is into this kind of kenotic contemplation or meditation. The poem got the title "A Year of Ruin and Fortune." A year of ruin, RUIN, and fortune, and it had a little subtitle: From Pandemic to Lockdown to Liberation. That's how it felt. That's how it feels to me. And it's going to be posted tomorrow on the Monday posting. So this is what came to me. A year ago in March 2020, still felt like winter. It was a dark time. As Churchill once quipped, Americans can always be trusted to do the right thing once all other possibilities have been exhausted. And that pretty much sums up our approach to dealing with COVID-19 during the initial months of the pandemic. Grudgingly, as the death toll began to mount and, and as the ICUs began to overflow, we half-heartedly went into lockdown. As we can see now, it was way too little and way too late, as more than 500,000 of our friends, family, neighbors have died. Little did any of us know the size and scope of the tsunami of tears that was to come. When we finally locked down in mid-March, it was like the whole country was suddenly engulfed in a dark cloud of unknowing. Jobs ended, salaries were reduced and gone, shops and businesses closed. Our cars lay still in the driveway. The skies did clear, but most of us were lost. Lost in a thick smog of not knowing where our lives were going. A beautifully desperate friend and I were commiserating with each other on the phone when out of the blue she said, you should do a retreat on Zoom. I think I said, what's Zoom? A year later, I'm a full-fledged baby Zoomer, sitting every Sunday with an ecstatic and beloved community of 50 or so praymates. As a Trappist monk, Thomas Merton was no stranger to lockdown. He once wrote, I walk from region to region of my soul, and I discover that I am a bombed city. I have written about the frogs singing. Now they sing again. It is another spring. Although I am ruined, I am far better off than I have ever been in my life. My ruin is my fortune. Merton once wrote, I walk from region to region of my soul, and I discover that I am a bombed city. I have written about the frogs singing. Now they sing again. It's another spring. Although I am ruined, I'm far better off than I have ever been in my life. My ruin is my fortune. This has been a year of ruin and fortune, a year of fierce and gentle healing grace. May we all dwell in the heart. May we all be healed in our losses and difficulties. And may we all bear the beams of love to one and all. Yeah, that's how it worked out. I was writing this thing and sort of blocked up. And then, it's about grace, really. And so I want to make a few points about grace before we dive into the sit. I couldn't quite get the feel of I couldn't put words to what I was feeling about the year. And then I read that passage from Merton. I walk from region to region of my soul, and I discover that I am a bombed city. I have written about the frogs singing. Now they sing again. And it was in my early morning reading that I do it. And the frogs were singing. And, New York, these places look like bombed cities. There was nobody on the street. It was like desolation. It was like something had hit, like a tsunami of something. He said his soul is a bomb city. I've written about the frogs singing. Now they sing again. It's another spring, and it is another spring. Although I am ruined, I am far better off than I have ever been in my life. And I could say that's true for me. I don't know about you. I would wish that it was for you too. I have, although I am ruined, and the ruin of losing close friends, family, neighbors, 500,000 people. There's no other way to talk about it. It's a kind of ruination. But as he said, he was far better off than he's ever been in his life. Then Merton had the knack of that, about going into the darkness and somehow going through it and coming out better than he was for all of it. My ruin is my fortune. So that little phrase, my ruin is my fortune, gives you an idea of grace. This was a coin my mother kept. It was from Lake Havasu, Arizona, where they moved to London Bridge. Classic tourist trap where she lived out her life there, my dad and mom. But grace is like this coin now. It's got two faces. It's got a fierce side and a friendly side. And what we think of grace is the friendly side only. No, but you can't get a coin with one side, and you can't get grace without both sides of grace. And he catches that in terms of ruin and fortune. Sometimes fortunate things happen, and we thank God, or we just feel lucky or whatever. And then there is a level of that. That is what mostly we think of grace. We don't think of the fierce things in life, the losses, the difficulties. We don't think of those as grace. But actually, they are. And this was a real mixed year. That's why I call it a year of ruin and fortune. And the fact that we only want half a coin is part of the problem with human beings being happy. You can't have half of a coin. You can't have half a life. And actually, as you go into the way of the mystics, which is always, almost always, this kenotic way of somehow you have to be stripped. You have a practice. We have a practice of dropping the things of the body and the mind, dropping them and dropping down into the empty space, which could be called the heart. Just dropping down into an empty space to have this meeting unencumbered when Beowulf, the first Western was Beowulf, and when he finally goes down to face Grendel's mother at the bottom of this deep, dark lake, it's a great, the first American or first English Western in the English language. He's like a gunslinger and he slays but he slayed Grendel, but he's got to go and slay Grendel's mother because as long as Grendel's mother's alive, there'll be more Grendels. So he has to go down and he has to leave his armor, he has to leave his sword, he has to dive in the middle of this dark lake and go down there naked in a sense to face Grendel's mother. And that's a dark version of what we're doing every time because we're really trying to leave everything behind. As we go down for this meeting with the great mystery, you can't bring stuff. No stuff necessary. Anything you bring gets in the way when we take this descent in meditation, you see, and that's why it's called kenotic, kenosis. It's the way of unknowing. It's the way of emptiness. And it doesn't appeal to the ego at all. I'm amazed that, what do we got, 45 people here? I'm amazed. And some of you have been coming all along, and it's really your egos don't like it at all. And that's where the lines, may we all dwell in the heart. This is like a prayer that I use for people. And when I'm saying we, I mean, including myself, may we all dwell in the heart. The heart is the place not only of, we think of it as terms of love and whatever, but it's primarily a place of emptiness. The heart is a place that is empty of everything but pure love, which isn't a thing, you see. So may you dwell in the heart. May we all be healed in our losses and difficulties. Losses and difficulties is actually how you make the most progress in the mystic world. When everything goes right, it's nice, but the ability to bear the losses and the difficulties, to bear with them, that's what we really call suffering. To bear with the pain, to bear with the difficulties, not to run away from them, not to wish they weren't there, although we all do. But they sort of strip you, and that's part of it. And then finally, may we all bear the beams of love to each one we meet. That's the end of the process. So this is really a nice prayer. Comes from the loving kindness tradition. May we bear the beams of love to each one we meet. Well, how do you gain that ability of being able to be a vehicle of love? Well, years like this. Here we are. I mean, it's a friggin' miracle. I could have put that title, the friggin' miracle, that there'd be 45 people here doing this work, on Zoom, which I didn't have any idea what it was. And maybe you didn't either. So it's really quite amazing. So, we're going to drop into, that's the thing. We have words, then we go into this deep silence, and then we come out to this, what we've realized lately as this community has progressed, is then we come out into this hybrid place of deep silence and deep conversation, something that you don't really experience much. And that's what the third part is, the sort of the kind of a contemplative conversation where words come out of the silence into our own silence, because you really have to be silent inside to hear fully with the ear of the heart. And then the words go back into silence. We take a couple breaths, and then if something comes out of your heart, you can speak. We'll just, I'll remind you about that when we get to that point. But first, let's just drop into the silence, leaving as much as possible everything behind. Physical sensations, the body, and the body brain that basically runs on fear because it's trying to keep us alive. So we can leave our fear behind, leave our body behind, and we can leave our mind behind when the mind runs on strategy, figuring things out. So we're leaving fear and strategy behind as we just drop in to love. We drop in to this place of emptiness where we can just experience this great mystery, whatever you want to call it, one-on-one, a kind of I-thou relationship. Again, that's sort of the essence of what we're doing. And once we once we do that, we just consent to even aspire to do it. And after that, there's nothing for us to do. It's all done to us, you see. Yeah, it's the easiest thing in the world to do, but the ego gums it up. So we just try to leave it behind. We'll need it later to find the right channel to watch the basketball games and all that. You know, you need the ego for that. But you know, for now, we don't need it. We don't need it. Okay, so we're going to get ourselves into meditation mode. You might change your seat a little bit or straighten up a little bit. And then I'll just give you a little invocation and then we'll ring the bell and we'll be off for a period of silence. Reminded you last time just to, once you're sitting, you know, as stably and as erect as you can, and you know, that may include if you have some kind of physical problems, laying flat on the floor, that's okay. But mostly, if you can, just sit comfortable and erect, and remember to just tuck your chin in a little bit, because then you have more strength in a way from the Zen guys. They talk about you. Then you have a real strong setup. You're not going to fall over or be unbalanced. So, and with eyes closed and just breathing in deeply through the nose and out through the mouth as we just sort of push off, leave the shore here. A few words to push off. Return like mountain. Release like ocean. Relax like sky.